can give me the right to be a human being. I'm fine with that right. Now you can keep me from having that if you've got all the policemen and all the jobs on your side.
Hey there, friends and family, and thanks for joining me for this video. This is basically the first video I'm making of what I'm going to be calling Foraging Friday. I've done a couple of, well, I guess one blog post where I talked about foraging. I'll link that in the description of this video. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to walk around my property for starters until I run out of things to forage for and bring to you guys. But I'm going to try to bring 3 plants every day that I can just find walking around my property that provide either some kind of medicinal help to us, or we can eat them, or possibly both. A lot of them do both. So I just came down along my creek here this morning, and there's a tree down here that I'd like to show you. Let me go ahead and turn the camera around. I got a couple of them right here. It's called the Pacific Yew. So let's see, this is one right here. There's actually 2 of them right here. That's the trunk. So I'm just kind of standing back a little bit. I'm going to go up. These grow, I think they call it the understory. So they grow under, especially down here where this creek is on my property. They tend to grow down underneath these there's a bunch of big cedar trees down here. I'll just kind of spin around so y'all can see all the big trunks. This is a big cedar tree right here. And it towers pretty high and provides pretty big canopy, so there's not a whole lot of light that gets down here. So these Pacific Yews, this one here and the littler one right behind it there, are both Pacific Yews. I'm going to get a little bit closer. Get under so you guys can see what the actual leaves on these conifers look like. But the reason I'm talking about this tree in particular is I was reading about the medicinal qualities of it, and they're actually using it for cancer research right now. So there's a little bit. I'm going to try to zoom in on that. They're using it for cancer research. I'll put a link to a website that goes over a lot of this stuff in the description for each of these I'm talking about too. But they use the bark from this here yew, Pacific yew. I can't remember exactly what, I think it's Toxol they call it or something, but they're using that in fighting cancer. So one of the things I read though about using it to fight cancer is, I'm just going to keep going here. I'll show some pictures in this when I edit this video, but I just want to keep walking here as I'm talking, walk through the forest. But one of the downfalls, I guess, of using this tree to treat cancer, as the research is telling them, is you need the bark from about 6 good-sized trees to get enough to treat someone. So here's our creek here. Now you can't quite see the pooch underneath me. There he is. But everywhere I look, they also say that this tree, all parts of it are highly toxic. I'm looking around here at some of them. I don't see any of the fruits. Ooh, here's one, a good size one. I can come get a better, closer look at the leaves for you. But most places I've found information on this, they do say that it is highly toxic. So keep that in mind if you do plan on using any of this. But there are some edible parts of it. So my understanding is Native Americans used to take the bark and grind it up and put it in a poultice and put that to treat wounds to help them heal faster. But I just wanted to show you what the leaves look on this. They're pretty short. They're really soft. It actually, if this wasn't big, if this was a smaller tree, I might think this was a grand fir, because when they're small, that's kind of how they present. But this is a pretty good sized tree here. The part that's edible of this tree apparently is what they call the fruit, which I don't see any on this one. I'm looking here, or any dried up ones. If I saw a dried up one, I would maybe show you that. But apparently this, I'll put a picture of it that I can find online so you guys can see what it looks like. but apparently the fruit is edible, and people say it's quite tasty. So that's something. There is a seed inside of the fruit, though, that apparently is like the rest of the plant. They say highly toxic. So use caution if you decide to use this for medicinal purposes or for eating. Don't eat the seed, just the fruit that comes around the seed. So now I'm making my way out of the creek here. I'm going to pause this video for just a second as I go up to the next plant that I'm going to show you. Got a couple more up on a different part of the property here that I want to show you, but for now, I'm down here along the creek. I find a lot of plants down here because this is where there's a lot of water, so this is where there's a lot of life, a lot of different species. Anything that needs a lot of sun isn't typically going to be down here, but there is a lot of stuff down here. So let me get to the next plant and I'll catch up with you then. Okay, so as I'm walking up my property to get to the next spot where I'm going to show you some more, I did find here's a great example of a Pacific yew here. This is in the area that we kind of flattened out, so we can put a shop in here. And that left this right on the edge of the area we flattened out. So it used to have a bunch of other trees kind of in front of it that towered over it. We had to take a couple of those out. And so this one is just a great specimen here, kind of standing all by itself. Pretty good size yew. Usually, like I said, they tend to be a little bit smaller and in the undergrowth. As I walk up to the other plants I'm going to show you here, I just decided it might be a good idea to turn on the camera so you guys can see a little bit more of the property. It's one of the reasons Simon and I chose this property. Is it really has a lot of diversity. As you can see, we were just down by the creek where it's very dense, dark down there. Now we came up on the other side of the county road where, excuse me, I'm a little winded. It's a pretty steep hill climbing up here. Where we do get a little bit more sun, but we do still have a lot of the trees that grow down by the creek. A lot of cedar trees, big old fir trees. And as we get up on top of this knob up here, it's kind of flat, and then it drops off on both sides. So we get this side, which only gets kind of morning sun. Tends to not get as much, so it retains a lot more water in the soil. So there's a lot more trees like cedars that require a lot more water. But what that also means is on the other side, which is in that direction, the ridge, it faces the west. So it gets afternoon sun, especially in the summer. It gets really hot, dries it out more. So we have some plants over there that need more sun. So we have a lot of diversity on this property, and that's one of the things we really liked about it. So we're coming up to an area here where the previous owner planted some fruit trees. I'm pretty sure if I remember right, these are all apple trees. There's a pear tree in another location. These never did anything this year. I don't think they get enough sun, so we're going to move them by next spring. But this is kind of the area where my headquarters is up in this area. So let me get up here to the next plant, which I see one already, but there's a bunch of them up here. Well, heck, I'll just go ahead and turn around to this one. Sorry, I turned faster than the gimbal. All right, so we're going to go down for this one right here. This is actually, it's growing wild. I don't know that it grows wild everywhere, but we have them all up and down this road that goes under the power line that I'm walking up right now. But it's a turnip. So there you go. Big turnip. I pull it up, but I'm not quite ready to eat it. I pulled one up the other day. I've been sauteing it with onions and mushrooms and peppers and putting in like a breakfast taco with my eggs in the morning. I also sliced it up like julienne, kind of matchstick slices, and put it in with some, like a stir fry with some noodles the other night. That was really good. I've also been told this part, the root, you can roast it with other vegetables like potatoes. You can throw it in with mashed potatoes. If you eat it raw, it doesn't have a whole lot of taste. It has a little bit of a kind of taste like a radish. It's very, very mild. Just at the very end is when I taste it. The greens can be eaten as well in place of like kale and things like that. Although I have read they're better when they're younger. These ones here, they're big. They kind of have a funky texture to them on the outside, so if you wanted to eat them like that, you might want to boil them or something, like, or steam them like spinach or something like that to make it a little softer. But apparently they're very high in vitamin C, and they have a lot of other good minerals in there. So like I said, I'll throw a link in the description to the medicinal and edible qualities of these plants I'm sharing with you. But I mean, you can see I'll just take just in this spot right along this little log here we have down. Got that one that I just showed you. Got one right here. Sorry, my gimbal is a little hard to mess with right now. The little joystick that controls the angles fell off, so I kind of got to get my finger in there, but I'll get that fixed pretty soon. But you can see there's another turnip down there. Here's one right here. Here's one right here. So they're various sizes. I mean, they're all throughout here, so I'm going to let some of them go to seed, so they'll come back again next year. And there's Scout, our protector of the property. All right, so let me get turned around here and we will go to the next one, which is just right up here. So when we got this property, we now call it Tree Alley, this little road, but this was really the only clear way through our property is this road right here, which goes under a power line. Yes, I know it's very ironic. We're off-grid homesteaders, and there's a power line going through our property. We haven't tapped into it, though. And there's more. Just show you here, there's more radishes coming up. Sorry, like I said, joystick's a little hard to mess with, but there's a little radish right there coming up as well. 2 of them. So as we move along, we're going to come to the next one. More and more radishes here, all over the place. There's a big one right there. Aha, here we go. So this road was fairly overgrown with grass. As you can see up there when we first got the property. See a little further over there, we haven't drug as many of the trees that we had to take down for our spot that we leveled. So there's more grass up there, and that's the way it was when we bought the property. It was pretty much all like that. But us dragging trees up here has cleared off all the grass, unearthed a lot of dirt. So now we have more plants coming up that weren't necessarily here before because the grass was maybe choking them out. But this is a pretty common one here, mullein. I'm sure most of you have heard of mullein. Like I said, it's not uncommon. We have several smaller ones. So these are first year mullein plants here, and they just came up within the last, probably I'd say, month or so. As you can see, there's also plenty of turnips mixed in here as well. So the turnips definitely like it, but the mullein, it's a great plant. It has lots of medicinal qualities. People use it to treat like a sore throat for a cough. It's my understanding, I think it's the leaves that you crush up and make into a tea to help you with the sore throat, your dry, scratchy sore throat. The second year, the first year they don't grow very tall. They kind of just grow like this. But the second year, they grow really tall, and I'll throw a picture. I don't have any on my property that I found yet. They grow really tall. I'm sure there's some on the west side of our slope. I just didn't necessarily want to go down there this morning because I have some samples here of first year mullein. So the other thing that mullein is really great for is treating lung issues. And this is something that I have learned in my research on foraging is you look at the plant and think about how it may relate to part of your body, and that's in theory what it will help treat medicinally. So like if we look at these mullein here, what does that leaf look like possibly in your body? Now, maybe I just have this, maybe I'm just preconditioned because I was listening to a podcast on Crow777 where they were talking about this. And the guy, like I said, was mentioning that he looks at what the plant looks like, and that's maybe what will help part of his body. So he says if you look at the leaves on a mullein plant, they look like a lung. They resemble a lung. So in theory, then that tells you, oh, okay, that might help me with my lungs, with something with my lungs to treat issue with breathing or lungs. So just a little helpful tidbit there. But it is a highly medicinal plant. It grows all over, especially along the road here. It gets more sun, so it does dry out a little bit more and gets enough sun for it to produce the flowers. So that's why it grows here. But yeah, so you can harvest the root and the leaves, and then the second year, the flowers get really tall, up to like 4 or 5 feet they can get. And you can harvest the flowers. They're also good for treating like mucus, flus and colds, things like that. You make teas and tinctures with the flowers. Okay, I'm gonna have to throw this in as a quick edit. No sooner did I turn off my camera from making that video, and I happened to see this nice little specimen of a second year mullein. It's not a huge one, but just wanted to show you what it looks like in the second year when it does get the stem all the way up and the flowers. These flowers look to be pretty well spent, but normally the flowers come out as each one of these little individual pods. Well, there's a little bit of that. Nope, there's a little bit of one, but it was just a leaf that was turning yellow. They come out a pretty bright yellow out of each of these. So there are a bunch of individual little flowers out of these little pods here. So there you go. Just wanted to show you what a second year mullein looks like. That way, you know, it doesn't just look like in the first year, but it stays short like that. It also gets tall in the second year. So it's really just a useful plant. Like I said, I'm going to throw in the description of this video, I'll throw a link to a website that I like that talks about all these plants. I'll just throw a link to each individual plant so you can look at all of them or one individually if you want. Now you see back here, a lot more mullein on the ground back here. All these broadleaf plants, you can see that's all mullein there. So there's quite a bit of growing back here. These, as long as we leave these and don't disturb them too much, they'll grow back next year taller. Okay guys, well I hope you're getting something from these. I'm going to try to keep bringing you, like I said, we're going to call this Foraging Friday, so I'm going to try to keep bringing you a video like this every single Friday, whether it's a video or a blog post. And until next time, I'm just going to enjoy my day up here in my little paradise. I hope you guys have some place that you call paradise so you can enjoy your days as well. Thanks for joining me for this video. If you like my content, share it. It's the best way to support the efforts of this channel and only takes a couple of clicks. Most importantly, stop using big tech platforms and decentralize. Share this from a decentralized and blockchain-based platform to help spread the word about them.